try to convince me, but I still wear a smile on my face. A smile is just a start from a good happy place. Hold on to possibilities of who you wanna be. What you see, what you believe, be your destiny. Like they say, everybody can take this ride. Sometime you must encourage yourself to live the good life everybody wants. Yeah, a piece of pie. See, everybody wants the good life. The good life.
Hey, hey everybody, how are you? How you doing today? I'm Musa Jackson, and this is Ambassador Digital Magazine Live. Wow, like I said, we made it through this week. We're here. Few things have gone on in the world. Things are still going on in the world. You know, we like to talk about that before we bring on our guest. I cannot wait to bring on this guest. Oh gosh, the other night, President Biden addressed Congress, and you know, I don't know if there were any real surprises in his delivery and what he, you know, came to do. I think, you know, for the most part, he gave a very good address and hit his points. I mean, he's done. I give him pretty high marks in what he's done in the first 100 days in office. You know, the man did deliver on some of his promises. Let's give him some more time to deliver on other promises. But you know, it is night and day for me compared to the joke we had to, or the nightmare we had to endure for the past 4 years. This is a president. This is how a president acts. This is how presidents speak. He was still quite respectful. Even to his Republicans, quite respectful in a lot of ways. And then, you know, for every address, there is a, rebuttal or whatever from the Republicans. Someone said Republicans, which is the perfect name. Republicans, rebuttal. That's right, Stephen. Thank you, Stephen. And it's funny how he found the only black man to deliver the the rebuttal. Yeah. So I gotta laugh because Twitter and social media has been basically raking this hyena across the coals. Now, it's America. You have a right to your opinion. You have a right to certain things. But when you get up in front of people and you start talking about being a black man and your experiences, and then throw out there's no racism in America. And that basically Biden's keeping that alive. Well, you just got revoked in the cookout, baby. I don't care how black you think you are, you got revoked from the cookout. Any Harlem cookout, and Harlem does some of the best cookouts in New York. You ain't coming, you ain't invited. You heard me, I'm putting an ordinance out there. I'm the Harlem ambassador, I can do that. One of my specialties, okay? So go sit down somewhere, all right? But they have raked him over the coals, and I just don't want to get into it with him. I just want to say, social media, have at it. He's perfect. I've seen some memes and some memes or whatever you call it, and emojis, and all I can do is shake my head. Tim Scott, What it's Charlamagne the God called Donkey of the Week. You might be the donkey of the rest of the month. Okay, Steve Reich, your cookout is revoked. Anyway, good news in regards to the Justice Department indicts Travis McMichael, Gregory McMichael, and William Bryan with federal hate crimes and attempted kidnapping charges in connection to the death of Ahmaud Arbery. So they are moving forward with that. That's good news after the conviction of Derek Chauvin. Let's just hope this is setting a precedent, and that trials and future indictments and convictions of not only civilians like that, racist civilians and hate crimes, but also with the officers as well that have done hate crimes, because that's terrorism, and that's a hate crime to me as well. So I'm ecstatic about that, and we will be following that, keeping you informed about that. CDC guidelines came out with their new guidelines on fully vaccinated Americans will not have to wear masks in open spaces with, I guess, like-minded vaccinated people, as well as in certain outdoor restaurants to be able to walk around the mask. So if you see me walking down Atlantic Avenue, minding my business, and there's like 10 people around without a mask, because I'm fully vaccinated. Vaccination does have its privileges. I'm not gonna be stupid. Because if I see someone I've seen and I look at and I'm going, that wouldn't have been vaccinated. Let me grab this. Let me put this on my mouth before I say hi. But that's one of the good things about the CDC guidelines, is that they are trying to open up, and what is normal, we'll see, right? Shout out to our good friend Casey Duke, cover girl this summer. She's being portrayed by Laverne Cox, which is amazing. We're going to talk about that, because I talk about that dynamic, which is incredible. Laverne Cox, I love Laverne Cox, but she's being portrayed by Laverne Cox in an upcoming Netflix series. So Laverne, we're going to have to invite, hopefully we'll invite Laverne, but we'll definitely be inviting Casey, hopefully maybe to talk about that. Okay. And what is it? We had birthdays. We had great birthdays. Ella Fitzgerald's birthday was this weekend. Duke Ellington's birthday is today. The great Duke Ellington, the great Ella Fitzgerald. And August Wilson's birthday passed as well. They've all gone to our glory. They all are sisters. I never met the Duke. I never met Ella, but I did meet August Wilson. And actually, our guests will appreciate this. I met August Wilson back in the 90s. My good friend Michael Wright, mother Alberta Wright, late great Alberta Wright, owned a restaurant called Jezebel's. And I was a fledgling screenwriter, and Michael invited me to meet August Wilson. And at the table was Charles Fuller and August Wilson and Arthur French and little old me. I was like 20 something. I was like 28 years old, and I sit down with August Wilson. I'm a writer. He's telling me how good a writer I am. August Wilson looks at me and says, "Okay, son, tell us about your writing." And don't you know, I tried to speak and nothing came out my mouth. Literally, I opened my mouth and words did not come out. And I'm looking at August Wilson and I'm trying to tell him what I want to tell him, but nothing is coming out. And Charles Fuller starts to laugh. He leans over to me and he says, "Son, everybody does that when they meet August Wilson." That's my August Wilson story. So, also, got really good news. Summer of Soul, which I mentioned before, which was the winner of Sundance Jury Prize Award, was picked up by Hulu, and it'll be premiering on Hulu on July 2nd. And that is Questlove's directorial debut. I am a part of that. I was fortunate enough to be one of the people that recount this great moment in history. which was the 1969 Harlem Cultural Festival that happened at Marcus Garvey Park. And there was amazing people there, from Gladys Knight to Sly and the Family Stone to Nina Simone to Stevie Wonder to the Fifth Dimension, amongst others. And this was my recollection as a little boy. And I got to tell my side, and that side is Harlem's side. So anyway, look out for that. We'll tell you more about that, and the producers are very excited about that. So I'll have definitely much more with that, with Questlove coming up. So, yep, there it is. That was it. That was the festival. This one of the acts that was there. She actually, which I'll let them talk about it, but she debuted something very important at that festival. So here we are. Welcome everybody to the show. I am extraordinarily excited to welcome our guest. New York native. We claim him, yo. New York native. He is the son of one of the great restaurateurs of all time, Howard Johnson, who had the Cellar back in the 70s, where he worked, and he was bussing tables back then as a teenager. Handsome devil, and basically became one himself. He was also a model, and if you see the guy, the first time I actually encountered Brad Johnson was seeing him in the pages of GQ magazine and just going, "Oh my God, can anybody be that beautiful?" And he was. But his love was for hospitality and the restaurant industry. So he'd work for his dad, then go out on his own and help really create this modern experience, urban, where it was an integrated experience before we were uptown. And then he kind of helped integrate us and bring us downtown with people like Alberta. But he was one of the pioneers of that, in this integrated, amazing experience with restaurants like Memphis and 107 West in the 80s. Into the 90s, he would head out west when Black Hollywood was taking a new turn with the Spike Lees and the Don Singletons, and he would also usher in a new modern era with food and clubs, from Roxbury to George's, with his partner Norm Nixon, Debbie Allen, Alvin, our former guest, as well as the great Denzel Washington. We have amazing success with that restaurant. Then he would continue. His latest was Post and Bean, for which he turned over to some wonderful chefs, with the chefs of the restaurant, and now is the creator of an incredible podcast, which kind of takes you behind the scenes. It's called Corner Table Talk. Hopefully one day I'll be on the Corner Table Talk. But it takes you into, what it's like to be one of those guests, his famous guests, and he's had them all. He also worked with Ashford and Simpson 2020. I forgot to mention that, but we're going to get into all of that. We're going to go through it. So I want to welcome our guest, I'm going to call him icon, the iconic Brad Johnson. Come on out here.
Musa, what's happening, Mr. Ambassador?
How are you?
I'm good, my brother. I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm just happy that you're here.
Man, it's such a pleasure to be here, and I'm such an admirer. That was very nice, the bio that you read off there. But I could spend twice as long on yours and still not get to the end of it. So I'm really proud of you, man, and all the stuff that you continue to creatively lend your really discerning eye to, and just your spirit, brother. I mean, it's we need you, and the ambassador is the perfect title for you, man. So I'm really honored to be here. Thank you.
That means I think anyone watching that knows me and knows any of my roots and everything like that, that means the world coming from you. Thank you, Angelique Miles. That means the world to me. And I meant every word that I said. I was a shy model in the 80s. I was always a poor kid. You know what I mean? And when you're the poor kid who's been lucky enough and attractive enough to be a part of the scene, you don't want to make so many waves. So I was a writer, or you know, so I always sort of I was in spaces, Brad, that you were, and you didn't know I was there because I knew how to be almost invisible, and that's how I wanted it, you know, because it was comforting for me, but I wanted to experience it, and because it wasn't ever about me. It was like, wow, look at these beautiful people, look at these beautiful Black people, and you were that. Your family, yourself, really gave us safe spaces, and I want to go back with you to the beginning. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what, you know, where Brad Johnson came from.
Oh man, well, thank you again for that. And you know, you talk about being a shy person in that room and just wanting to be. I was that guy too, Musa. I really was, man. You know, I was not a confident teenager, and so for me, you know, the early exposure that I got being in, you know, my dad's place, as you mentioned, in the 70s, you know, that was the Black is Beautiful era. And, you know, I remember, man, just peeking out. You know, I got stuck in the dish room because that's when my father decided I needed to start. And then that was the right decision. But I would peek out, man, into the dining room and just see this crowd of, you know, beautiful Black folks, man, and celebrating and partying. And it had a sophistication to it, but it also had we had everyone from Susan Taylor to, you know, famous number bankers that we both know, whose names we won't mention, and others, you know, but it was a moment in culture, man, that I am so fortunate that I was able to witness. You know, I am a product of an interracial marriage. My mom, rest her soul, was Italian. My dad, rest his soul, was African American. And so for me, Musa, race has always been something that's been, you know, just in the forefront of my mind, and just in terms of how I identified myself. And, you know, my mom's family disowned her when she married my dad in the 50s, and interracial marriage was illegal in many places. And, you know, so we only really knew the African-American side of my family. And so that was how I identified. That's how I've always identified. I see myself as a Black man, but, you know, looking a little bit different, having, you know, hair that I couldn't just walk into the local barber and ask for a shape up and get a good one. You know, didn't quite know what to do with my hair. You know, it made me a little self-conscious, man. So I can relate to you talking about being that young guy in the room and just wanting to take it all in, because I sure did just want to step back, man, and just kind of be a fly on the wall.
Well, let's talk about being a fly on the wall. So being a fly on that wall, there was some incredible people that came. Let's just start with Cellar. There were some epic people that walked through those doors. And I know you have so many great memories, but let's talk about some of the characters. You know, I want people to understand who, of course, anybody from that era, right? They know what I'm talking about, who were there. But if you weren't in New York, you know, it was like what you said, the Black is Beautiful. So tell us about some of the people that walked.
Well, sure. You know, in the 70s, man, I mean, the picture that I'm looking at now is Ty Spears and Rashid. And, you know, of course, two very well-known models, guys you've probably worked with many times over the years. And you know, that crowd, which was my crowd, came later. You know, in the 70s, we're talking about Susan Taylor, Marie Brown, Ed Bradley, you know, folks, Earl Graves, Arthur Ashe, people that were rising to prominence, Bruce Llewellyn, so many that had not yet acquired, you know, some of the notoriety that they would later. But they were just these brilliant folks that I just got to be introduced to. And then the music was a whole nother element that, you know, everybody came through. And the beautiful thing, Musa, was that, you know, it was a time that Black folks were all in the same room. You know, I know we've all kind of done a lot of different things, and Harlem, interestingly enough, has kind of provided an atmosphere for us to kind of gather again, you know, in the same spaces. But, you know, for a time during the 80s and 90s and 2000s, you know, as we started to venture out and go to other spots, our spaces got diluted to a certain extent, and it was hard to find a room full of Black folks, a multi-generational room full of Black folks. So, you know, for me, that was the genesis of the beginning of my experience, man, just witnessing that could happen, that there could be my father's generation, my generation, all in the same room and knowing each other and family to one another. And then Black folks from around the country and meeting people from Baltimore and DC and California. And, you know, it was just that special. And the Upper West Side in those days, man, was, you know, that's where it was at. I mean, we had, you know, the Cellar, McKell's, Russ Brown's, Brody's. You know, you could bounce around to any one of those spots, man, and see premier entertainment, have fantastic food, you know, and there was, like I said, there was a polish to it. There was a sophistication to it that was the emergence of, you know, the finer dining African-American restaurant scene, we'll call it that, you know, was the precursor to the, you know, Jezebel, Alberta, who we both love and miss and adored, and B. Smith's and what Michael Vann ended up doing, you know, with Shark Bar and Mecca and his ventures. But, you know, places like the Cellar, man, were really kind of the newer wave of the outgrowth of some of the more traditional Black restaurants that had preceded it. And, you know, some of the hot spots that had been uptown, like the original Red Rooster and, you know, Baby Grand and, you know, some of those great places. So I just felt really fortunate, man, to have that be my early experience and really kind of set all of my, my ideas and the way that I see the world. I always see the world through the lens of those days. And this is a great picture. I love this picture with Roscoe, and Roscoe Lee Brown and Diane Carroll. I had opened a place called Menemsha in Venice in honor of the small fishing village on Martha's Vineyard. And Roscoe was just a regular guest, as was Diane. And I've often repeated the line that he gave me that has been my mantra in hospitality. But he told me, never mistake your arrival for the event, when I was about 17 years old. And I probably walked in the room like maybe I thought my arrival was the event. But I just never forgot that, man. Loved him.
I mean, those are the kind of people and greatness that we were surrounded with, you know what I mean? And you're so right about Upper West Side. I went to school directly across the park from the Cellar. I went to Manhattan Country School, which is 96th Street and 5th. So a lot of my friends lived in the building over the Cellar. You know what I mean? Remember the buildings that were over the Cellar?
Oh, yeah.
So I was in the building as a kid, you know, growing up. And then I would come down and see the Cellar. As you're a kid, when you're a kid, before you get to go, you know, that was like your target. Was like, you know, first you're on the outside. You know, those are the old movies, the little kids are looking in the window and seeing all the grown folks go in. And then you get 18 and you're actually able to go in the spot. So the Cellar was like laser focused, first place I went to as a legitimate adult. That's a great shot of you with your dad and your mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. That was Martha's Vineyard, and I don't know, I'm probably, you know, 7 or 8. My parents split when I was 10, but that's certainly a cherished memory. And you know, we've been going up to Martha's Vineyard and had homes up there over the years. Don't have one now, and I miss it terribly, especially as the summer starts to approach. But yeah, that's a sweet memory, man.
Yeah, what I love about you, Brad, and what you stand for, also when people listen to you, you really reflect on a specific time, and you definitely carry that legacy. Your family was, you know, in that legacy, and of a certain, you know, Blacks really, how do I put this, making it, coming together, thriving, building, being creative together. You know, rising together. Black excellence is something we talk about now as a hashtag. Before there was a hashtag, there was people that really personified that. And, that's why seriously, I know I'm going to probably just be Mr. Praise this whole interview. But, just like I said, there's certain people that really dot your life. So we go into mentioning, we see Ashton Simpson, who you did work with.
Mm-hmm.
But before you get there, I want to talk about your transition from working for your dad to now going out on your own as your own. I think people should know how that occurred and how you became, now Brad Johnson restaurateur.
So I studied. I majored in hotel restaurant management at UMass. I had a basketball scholarship, and that was my first love. But I figured it would be a good idea to major in hotel restaurant management in case that didn't work out. And my dad had purchased the restaurant by that time. So when I was in high school, so going into college, I thought it would be a good field of study for me. And so I worked with my dad, as you mentioned, and I got out of school in '79, and I was very happy at the Cellar, man. I felt like my generation then discovered it, as you were just describing. So you had this merger of our age group. I'm a few years older than you, but my generation merging with my dad's generation and everybody else in between. And so his folks would check out at 11 or 12 o'clock, and then we'd hang till 4 a.m. And Kenny Bronner and Raw Sugar would play tunes from the Wiz, and then that merged to Keith Sweat and Johnny Kemp and Platinum Hook and years later. So it became a very young environment. So in '82, I had met this woman I was actually on vacation in Barbados, and it turned into a photo shoot. But and I was really in love with her, and she was fancy and made a lot of money, and I wasn't making much. My dad was not paying me that well, but I got the benefit of driving his car up to Martha's Vineyard and staying in his house, and I was even living in his apartment. He was never there. I was quite happy. And she sat me down one night on a bench in Central Park, man. And she said, she looked at me, and anything she said, she said, everything you have is your father's. And man, that just it messed me up. And it was not too long after that, I decided, that's it. I have to go out and try to, do my own thing, and had a difficult conversation with my dad because he was not happy about that news. And then that led to just a quick story. I was walking down Columbus Avenue, a little dejected because I'd broken up with this young lady. And then I got stood up for a Knick game. And, so we didn't have cell phones in those days. So if you left your crib, you were just on your own. And so I walked into a bar on Columbus Avenue, sat down, started talking to somebody, and said, I want to open up a restaurant, somewhere down here. And long story short, she was working for Carly Simon, who was dating a guy named Al Corley, who was an actor. And that led to Memphis. Right. Dynasty. Yep. And that led to Memphis. So, it was a combination of taking some steps. I actually decided to get out and walk, but also a little bit of being in the right place at the right time. And that's what led to Memphis. So,
yeah, I remember that. Oh my God, Brad. Oh my God. It's so funny because Columbus Avenue was my street. So it was like, models have their walk. And if you notice, we were like there's Al and Lockley or Dynasty that was in their heyday. So he was pretty much, they were the hottest young people on TV at the time. And so, but Columbus Avenue for people like us, it was everybody was on Columbus Avenue at some point. I remember Alberta was around at that time. There were just different energies of us that were in the area. But once again, the reason I'm bringing this up is that there wasn't that Memphis. That was that integrated, really cool, fun spot. And I remember when you first opened, and I was so excited when you guys opened. I was young, and it was just, and it was just so cool. And I remember seeing you once again, and just kind of like I said, once again, on the outside. But these were the type of spaces, guys, that we had. And you were creating these really incredible spaces that are now That's what people do. These are like the blueprints for what we see when we go to these specific spots. These are the ingredients that needs to happen to make a successful spot. And you were one of the first chefs, if you will, for these type of environments. So you went through Memphis, had a great run, and then would 107 West come after that?
Yeah, so the partners and I that opened up Memphis, we opened 2 other places. We had Al and I and a small group of initial investors. We ran out of money halfway through construction, and we had to go out and get some money, and that's never a good situation when you're already in construction. So we ended up losing financial control of the restaurant. But needless to say, I went and opened a couple of other places with that same group, 107 West up on 107th Street and Broadway, and Coastal on 74th and Amsterdam. And not too long after that, Nick and Val had opened up 2020 on 20 West 20th Street with a restaurateur, and it wasn't doing well. They got slammed when they first opened. They had Entertainment Tonight there, and there was a little bit of blowback against their celebrity. Who are they to open this fabulous room? And it was large and beautiful, and I think the press was a little unfair. But at any rate, they wanted to. They came to Memphis one night and asked me if I would consider getting involved with them. And I just, I love Nick and Val, man. They're just like incredible people. And I said, I'm down with that. I'm a little frustrated that I don't have more financial control with this restaurant group. And so I said, yeah, let's do it. And I talked to them both about what we could potentially do. I said, look, let's turn this into a cabaret. It's a big enough space, and let's utilize your relationships and entertainment and see who we can book and make that happen. So that's what we did. And we shut it down for, I don't remember how long, but it wasn't very long. And we reopened, same name, but as a cabaret. And through Nick and Val, we were able to book incredible talent, Ohio players, Diane Shore. And one of the most memorable experiences of my life was getting to know Nina Simone, which, I can't, it's irreplaceable, those memories. But one note on that, and to why what you're doing here, Musa, is so important. I had Val a couple of months ago on my podcast, and both her and I lamented, man, that we don't have one single picture, no frame of film of any of the entertainment that we had at 2020. We just did not document it. And, and that's some of our story. When you go back to the cellar and you talk about the Upper West Side in those days, and even through the crowd merging into a Upper West Side, a little further downtown spot, Memphis. And, these are cultural moments for us that you and I can talk about. And that's great because we have firsthand memory. But we got to do a better job of documenting our experience culturally, man, so that it's there for the future to see. And I guess now with cell phones in everybody's hands, that's going to be a lot easier to do. But Val and I were just like, can you believe it? We don't have one picture of Nina. And so I'll tell you a funny story. So that Nina requested, Nick and Val had a yellow Rolls Royce, beautiful convertible Rolls Royce. And Nina left explicit instructions with Val that she was to be picked up at the airport coming from California in the Rolls Royce, which we went and did. So one night she's performing at 2020. And, Nina would stop in the middle of the performance if there was noise in the room. So you couldn't serve food, you couldn't serve drinks. It had to be quiet. And so at the end of her show, Stevie Wonder had come in to watch the show that night. And at the end of the show, before Nina was in her dressing room, Stevie left. And Nick and I went into the dressing room and we were debating who was going to tell Nina that Stevie was no longer there, because we knew. And sure enough, we go in there and she's like, well, tell Stevie to come up here. And we had to tell Nina that Stevie had left. She called Stevie a blind and Nick was on his knees pleading with Nina to not, lose her cool. And I mean, Nina could go off, But she was magic, man. She was just magical. But she definitely had that switch, and she could flip on you.
Flip on you, hon. Those are the memories that we talk about. It's so funny that you mentioned it. So many memories that we, and I wish I had a camera back then. I wish I remember I would see, like, in my day going back when I first started in the scene, Andy Warhol always had a camera. And I always found it a little weird because we didn't walk around with cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And so it almost felt like it was intrusive. But now looking back, you were smart because he was documenting so much stuff. And now I look back, those days I remember going to the 2020. My ex-girlfriend was actually one of the waitresses at 2020. So I remember going and hanging out there a lot. And it was a great spot. And I know after the Cellar, after 2020, they had problems. And, we can talk about that because it's important to, there's a lot of success and we've all had our moments where we question, things when they don't go exactly the way we want them to. And this was a case where you had high profile people, a high profile situation. And then what happened from there?
Yeah, you're right. And, we kept getting these tax bills from the previous year. The previous operator had not paid any sales tax. And I would have to deliver the bad news to Nick and Val and meet them at their townhouse and say, we got to come up with another $15,000, another $20,000, another $10,000. And, the business never really quite recovered. It was a big dining room. And while we were doing well on the weekends, it wasn't enough to sustain the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, even for that matter. Thursday, Friday, Saturday were fantastic, but we were just never able to catch up. And God bless them, Nick and Val just kept writing checks. But we kind of knew that was not going to be sustainable. You can't just keep dumping money, good money after bad. So after a year, we ended up having to close. It was devastating for me. I hadn't gone through an experience of closing a place before and having to notify staff they're not going to have a job. And I was embarrassed, Musa. I was embarrassed, man. I mean, I had gotten a little more well-known, I'll mention it here. Why not? I dated Whitney Houston and I met Whitney through Nick and Val. Yeah. And, so I unfortunately, got myself in the New York Post and National Enquirer and, not always so flattering, not always necessarily true. But at any rate, I was embarrassed, man. I was devastated. And I ended up back at my dad's, at the Cellar. I was lucky to have a place to go back to, but I felt like a failure, man. I felt like I blew it. And I remember, one night in particular, man, it was, maybe January or February. And, the steel metal gates that you pull down in front of the storefront, to keep people from breaking in or whatever. I would do that at the end of the night and lock up. And it was, late in the morning, 4 a.m, whatever. And I'm pulling it down. And I just remember the cold wind, man, blowing up my back from the Hudson. And I just said to myself, am I going to be doing this until I'm 80 years old? I just like had one of those moments. And I was just like, no, I can't. And, and I ended up deciding that it was time for a change. And decided to move to Los Angeles. There were a lot of other things that were happening to one of my good friends who's actually now out of jail, unbelievably, finally, after 33 years, Bill Underwood. And I were very close, and Bill had gotten arrested. And I was, too close for comfort, in some regards, although my path was a legal one. But the government was after Bill, and I got a little concerned with how close I was and that they knew my name and, what have you. And it just felt like it was time for a fresh start. And I'd met Norm Nixon playing basketball when I was at UMass. And then when Debbie was doing Sweet Charity on Broadway, we got reacquainted. They did lots of parties with us and did the closing night party, in fact, at Memphis. And he said, man, if you ever want to come to LA, and do something, let me know. And so I took him up on it.
You went out there, but the first thing you did was Roxbury, right?
Yeah, yeah. And Norm was, I had met a couple of guys and a couple of Lebanese guys actually in Mexico. My father had gone away. My father and I had gone away on vacation just to kind of decompress. And I met these two Lebanese cats, man, from LA. And I had met another gentleman, a guy named Chris Breed in New York, who was dating the MTV VJ downtown Julie Brown. And so it was, in the late '80s, it was a bit of a move. A lot of my boys, a lot of my friends were moving out to California, and so we all went out there at the same time, kind of. And but Norm was really my go-to guy, man. Norm raised of the $500,000 that we ended up needing for Roxbury. Norm raised about 400,000 of that, and he just stepped up, man, and gave just dope folks from the music business. And I mean, one of the investors that Norm brought to the table was a guy named Bernie Taupin, who was Elton John's songwriting partner. And Bernie threw this first party at Roxbury, and it was on after that, man. All Hollywood came and it was on.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, look what came out of that. Roxbury is iconic. And then from there, we go on to Georgians.
Mm-hmm.
So that became something that was pretty spectacular, specifically around that time, because there was a lot. And it was we call it an amalgamation of so many things going on at once in LA. We had the Rodney King situation going on. You had this restaurant, Black Hollywood, was just really taking off, but all eyes were definitely on LA at that time. So here you are in the center of that, being the go-to spot. What was that like for you?
It was great, man. Initially, we wanted to do Jezebel. You mentioned Alberta earlier, and Denzel and I, a big fan of Alberta's. She became like a second mom to me, and we really wanted to bring Jezebel out there. That was our vision of what an upscale Southern restaurant could be, the epitome of. And that didn't work out, so we ended up opening up our own place. And again, Norm was a partner, Denzel and Alvin, of course. And Alvin kind of became like my right-hand guy, man, and we put on our little trusty blazers and, our white shirts and, and it was fun, man. It was, but as you mentioned, it was everybody, I certainly had this impression that LA was this, just diverse place. And it is that. But it was also very segregated racially, until Georgia opened. There really wasn't an upscale experience that brought everyone together in the same room. And then, as you mentioned, there was kind of this thrust of power with Spike Lee had a spot across the street. Denzel was blowing up, but we had Shaq was, a new star in town. Magic was major. I mean, we had sports, entertainment, music, and white folks, quite frankly. We had Lou Adler was one of our partners. He sits next to Jack Nicholson at the Laker games, produced the Beatles, owns Rainbow Whiskey and the Roxy, legendary spots up on Sunset. So we had nights, man, where Warren Beatty was in the room and Ellen DeGeneres was in the room and Rosa Parks was in the, so it was just that kind of spot, man. And it was phenomenal. It was just a great experience. We had Oscar parties. Denzel and I, the night he did not win, ended up, we had an Oscar party anyway, Debbie threw, and he and I ended up in the kitchen, man, just throwing some steaks on the frying pan with some garlic and butter and eating them at 3:30 in the morning and laughing and, we just had fun, man. It was a cherished memory.
I love that. I can so see that.
In our tuxes, mind you, because I had gone to the ceremony with Norm and Debbie. So,
oh my God, I can still see that. That's awesome, man. Mm-hmm. Those are great memories. And so, move on. You were there for a long time. Then we took a turn and did something different, a little different. Talk about Post and Beam.
Yeah. Post and Beam came about. Ken Lombard, who had been the president of Magic Johnson's development company and put together all the Starbucks and Fridays deals. Mm-hmm. Ken and I had done a successful deal together when Magic had purchased a building in downtown LA. We took over the restaurant space there and we did really well. And Ken became a partner with Quentin Primo, and they purchased the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza in South LA. And there was a Golden Bird fried chicken space, a legendary fried chicken restaurant that became pretty well known, but it had been closed. And anyway, they were looking to reposition the mall. They wanted a signature restaurant. And, it was a little counterintuitive. I didn't think that was, necessary. I wasn't thinking about South LA as my next move. But once I took a look at the property and Baldwin Hills, Ladera Heights, View Park, which border where Post and Beam is located, are 1, 2, 3 wealthiest Black communities in the country. A lot of great history up in the hills, and where Black folks, lived during when there was redlining, and it still has a great history of folks that beautiful mid-century modern houses. In fact, that's where we took the name Post and Beam from. But yeah, we opened Post and Beam in 2012, started work on it in 2010, and it's into its 9th year now. We won a fantastic award last year, the Jonathan Gold Award, in honor of the deceased LA Times Pulitzer Prize winning critic, but really honored Post and Beam for being the place that we always hoped it would be, man, just a strong community spot. And I sold the restaurant in 2019 to a young brother that had worked with us and who is a chef. And, I made a deal that he could do because I really wanted to keep it in our hands. I thought that was important. And John Cleveland is his name, and his wife, Ronnie, they stepped up, and what a year they had to navigate, man. I sold them the restaurant in 2019, and they had about 8 months running before COVID hit. And, talk about a freshman year that's unlike any other. They've had their hands full, but they've done phenomenal. And I have high hopes for them, and I think they're going to do really well.
That's fantastic. That is absolutely, there it is, another photo.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
As hearing that, it's not shocking in terms of your character, passing down the torch to obviously keeping, as you say, in the family and unapologetically giving it to a people of color, Black couple that can actually take it and really do some amazing things with. And then, like you said, keeping it afloat during this crazy time, during a pandemic. Well, we've all got to support, if you're out, you've got to support Post and Beam. Things will be opening back up. So we definitely should be supporting restaurants like that. So I just want to say thank you for that, Brad, for all of that you've done for the industry, because it's just the legacy, the chart. We don't always know how things are going to go, but when you look back at your career, it just really is this incredible journey. And I love what you're doing. I love. You talk about me and the things I'm doing, and it just comes organically, I think, for both of us, that we're both people that love where we come from, our culture, our history, and these incredible people that have been so instrumental in our lives. Some that are no longer with us, some that are here, but certainly the ones that are here, we really need to honor and cherish. And I love what you're doing with your podcast, Corner Table Talk. Mm-hmm. You're the perfect person, dude. You got the perfect voice. I mean, look at you. I mean, who would want to talk to you?
Yeah, thank you, brother. Well, Musa, back to what you were just saying, though, I just want to, because again, this is what you are doing, right? You are reaching into the culture and talking to folks like me that don't always necessarily get, we had a little press through the years, but it's different when we talk to each other, And it was always important to me that brothers and sisters knew that when I was involved in a spot, that they had somebody there. I would stand outside of Roxbury, man, when we first opened, and, it was the days of the velvet rope and, a pretentious doorman who would select people. And I would go out, man, and see a bunch of brothers standing out there not getting in, and I'd just take the rope off the hook. You, come on. And then make sure that they got in, VIP room, the whole thing, man. I met John Singleton that way. John was a film school student at USC. And he ended up coming up to me in Poston Bean many years later because that was his neighborhood and wanted to do a documentary on, nightlife and stuff. But unfortunately and sadly, unexpectedly, John passed away. But so Corner Table, Musa, man, is an opportunity to everybody's pivoted. This year has become a very popular word. I wasn't after selling Poston Beam, I really wanted to take a break and kind of reassess what I wanted to do. I'm not retired, but I didn't want to just jump right back in the restaurant business. And certainly, once COVID set in, that didn't seem like it would be the easiest thing to do anyway. But the podcast, man, has just really given me a chance, like you do. I can tell from the questions you ask, you've done your research, you spend a little time, you take this seriously. So do I. I dive into each one of the people that I talk to. I get into their lives. I read their books if they've written a book, and it's been educational. But it's also been really, really sweet, man, because after all this isolation, you just feel the need to connect, and being in these little squares on these screens, it's not like me being able to hug you, man, and give you a full on pound. But damn, man, seeing your face and engaging with you, it's special and it's beautiful. So, that's what the podcast is giving me a chance to do, and crack open my Rolodex a little bit and see who says yes and get them on, man. And I'm coming for you. So there's no doubt about that.
I'm here. I'm yours. I would love to come on. Love to come on. And you mentioned beautiful faces, beautiful people. One of the great parts I love about this show is we've arrived. It's like we've arrived. Here it is. Oh, next. Is this your next week guest, or this was a guest before?
No, I had Nelson on. He was. We went live with his podcast last week. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Nelson George. Woo. Mm-hmm. We're talking about. Boom. Nelson George. But these are the type of, just so that you guys know, Corner Table Talk with Brad Johnson. These are the type of guests that he has. We're talking about people that are shape the culture of the culture. Some names you recognize instantly, some names that you don't. But I swear to God, if you Google any one of them, you'll see that these are people that are significant in what we're about, and help really, like I said, really helped push our culture forward. And I love what you're doing. And one of the parts of our show is this part where we get to. We had a photo shoot with Brad out in Fort Lauderdale with one of our photographers, Frank Lewis. I wish he were here today. He's busy on a shoot. So he wanted to send his regards to you. Love working with you. And so we did a great shoot with Brad. This is for me, guys, just that you know. This is once again a full circle. I call these full circle moments for me, because I was able to be that kid. Now I'm the editor-in-chief. Oh, there he is with Marcus. I'm the editor-in-chief of a magazine. So I was that kid looking at him in high school and going, maybe, possibly, Casey, hold on. You know how I do. I always do this stuff, because if we just said it, did it takes away all the drama. I love that. We're about to do his cover reveal and show some pictures from his editorial shoot with Brad Johnson in Fort Lauderdale. It will be on our site, ambassadordigitalmag.com, as well as all of our digital platforms, IG Ambassador @ambassador_mag and Ambassador Digital Mag, Facebook and YouTube. So Paul, say hi. Hi, everybody. How you doing? I see you. We'll say hi. Here's our cover.
What's up? That's funny, man. That's great. Thank you for that. Yeah, Frank was so cool, man. He made me really comfortable. Man, being in front of the camera at in your 60s is a different experience than being in front of it in your 20s. And but Frank was gentle and nice, man. And that ride was sweet. That was my boy's car, Mike Pyatt, Harlem guy, played basketball with him at UMass. He's got a fantastic that 1960 white Caddy convertible. And he was like, man, yeah, you can use it for the photo shoot. I was like, all right, man, I think that'll work.
Well, I love it. I said, give me GQ. There's Casey Duke, Woohoo Hotness. I saw you, Angelique. Wow. I said, give me GQ. I got to have GQ. If I'm going to shoot this gentleman, give me GQ, the way they used to shoot back in our time. And of course, you delivered. I love the vintage, you know, the car. Thank you so much, Mike Pyatt. Who's from Harlem? Who's from Harlem? Like you said,
yeah.
a Harlemite.
Oh yeah, Harlem basketball legend, Mike Pyatt.
Legend. And so thank you, Mike, so much. Many other pictures of Brad. We took him by. Did you go by the hotel? Because I saw you in the pool.
Yeah, the W. Yeah.
The W. So we have more pictures of Brad. And so he's going to show more. I love this shot. Very classic. You know, you're classic. So you're that classic gentleman, you know, very the American look, you know, sweet.
That's the shirt I have on.
Well, hey.
Definitely with my clothes. I saw Bobby Douglas' name pop up a few minutes ago from Platinum Hook. That's my man, Bobby.
Bobby's been out here. I see him. He just keeps popping up. Bobby, Fantastic Brad, big ups from Platinum Hook. Bobby, Courtney, I see you. Casey Duke, what's good, girl? We mentioned you earlier. Angelique Miles, Rhoda, I see you. Myron, I saw you. Elizabeth, she gives me texts. Thank you guys so much for joining. But yeah, you know, just
oh boy,
fully clothed in a pool. You know how we do. Throw you in a pool. Your clothes on. Love that shot. Vibing.
Yeah, that ride. You know, man, look at all that chrome, man. You know, those cars were made, Musa, with just such thought, man, and you know, you just don't get that anymore. So it was fun just sitting in that car. That beautiful ride.
Can't go wrong with this, man. It's just so, you know, timeless. You know. I love it. We'll look at this all day. It's beautiful. Let's see what else he got. Loved it. That's another shot from the cover without the extra. So, but I want to thank you so much on that shot. I want to thank you so much, Brad, for, you know, joining us, sharing with us your experiences, your knowledge. You know, people watch this afterwards, and I definitely asked you this question when we did our Q&A, but, you know, maybe you could just say it for young entrepreneurs, restaurateurs who necessarily don't have the leg ups that we had or you had. What advice might you give them in this time?
You know, I would say, Musa, to, you know, find someone that is doing what you want to do and have them mentor you. That, to me, my dad was my mentor and my, you know, spiritual guide, as was my mom in a different way. But, you know, on the business level, I had my dad and I had other mentors along the way. So I would say to find someone that's doing what you want to do and attach yourself to their hip, listen carefully to what they say, be a good listener and learn. Because there are people like Musa out there, myself, we're certainly willing to help young folks. But you've got to find us.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. And also I would say it's not easy. And I know this is a very, you know, I want people to know there's work involved, and it's going to take time, and it's going to take trial and error, and it's going to, you know, test you in ways that maybe you're going to rethink certain things. But if it's what you really want to do, there's nothing on earth that will stop you. So you've got to have that kind of passion for this type of industry that you're in, I'm in. I just want to add that on there because I just know we live in such a culture that shows moments like this and thinks, hey, just throw the magazine together.
Right.
Can get Brad Johnson tomorrow on the cover and Frank will shoot it in Florida. No problem.
Yeah, being willing to delay that instant gratification is to your point, I think is absolutely essential. Yep.
And with that said, my brother, I thank you. And please, 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 please thank your lovely wife, Linda.
I will do that.
So much. She's the angel, the beauty on your wings. Man, we all need that good partner. She's that good partner.
Yeah, and props to my son Bryce. And I'm very proud of that young man. He's doing great things, and I just wanted to make sure that I gave him a little shout out. I don't know if he's listening, but he might hear this at some point. So that's my man, and I love him.
Thank you so much, Brad. Thank you all for joining us. Maybe there's another. Sometimes Paul. There we go.
There he is. Yep.
There it is. There it is. I love it. We can possibly leave on this note. And I just want everyone to thank you so much for joining us tonight on this wonderful, wonderful show with the amazing Brad Johnson. I can't wait to come to Florida to see you.
My man. Musa, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate all this love, man.
Thank you so much. And I'd say, everyone, live your life with passion. Have a wonderful week. Take care, everybody. Ciao.